I will now call the meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone here to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion, although we do have some items for discussion only. You will have 3 minutes to state your comments. Please come forward to the table and you will be recognized. For accurate recording purposes, we ask all present to speak in the microphone, and we've never had this large of a group up here in this room, so it's a little cramped, and we're all glad you're here. Roll call.
Roll call. Bryant.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Kane.
Here. Next, we have the minutes for our February 18th meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. That takes us to our committee agenda. We have 6 items. Item number 1 is an ordinance certifying the unified government has sufficient legal authority to administrate certain programs pursuant to partial consent decree entered into with the U.S. Environment Protection Agency in the state of Kansas. I will now turn it over to Misty Brown.
Good evening, Commissioners. You have before you a series of ordinance changes. I have been before you earlier, I guess late last year, with some sewer ordinance changes in November. This is our second batch of ordinance changes, just that we basically went through, clarified our legal authority to administer the partial consent decree that we'd entered into with the EPA. These changes are not substantive in nature. They basically clarify the authority that we have, better match the legal authority that's set out by state and federal law. There's a lot of definitions. We touch base on adding pollution prevention plans to our land disturbance ordinance, our post-construction ordinances, and just generally enhance what we already have in place. I can go through them in more detail. They are lengthy. I would open for if there's any questions or if you'd like any further discussion.
Does any member of the committee have any questions or comments?
I do.
Okay.
Ms. Brown, is this consent decree that we're entering into, would you say this is a result of a federal mandate?
Absolutely.
This is not something we really have any choice about. If we don't do this, then we're going to run afoul of the federal government, which is once again forcing cost on local government instead of paying it itself, correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. We negotiated this long and hard for many years and got what is arguably one of the best partial consent decrees in the nation by negotiating to keep our rates low.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve this federal mandated ordinance.
Second. Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wants to question or make a comment? Seeing none, roll call on the question.
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Thank you, Misty.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is a resolution to support the Dot for Trot. Jennifer Myers from our legal department is presenting this evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here asking for adoption of a resolution of support for the Dot Trot. This is going to be a 5K or 10K run held at Wyandotte County Lake, and it's going to be to support the SAFE Foundation. The SAFE Foundation is a Surviving Spouse and Family Endowment Fund. So the monies collected from this run will support the SAFE Fund. This is helped to be set by the KCK Police Department, the Fire Department, and the Sheriff's Department. And the purpose of the run is to honor those members in public safety who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Do you have any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, does anyone in the audience wish to make a comment or a question? Seeing none, roll call on the question.
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item number 3 is a presentation from Public Works on crack sealing of streets, which is crucial preservation process for asphalt payments. Bill Heatherman. This item is for discussion only.
That's right. It's an informational item. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just have a brief set of PowerPoints to talk about the crack seal program that we are reinitiating this construction season. And a crack seal is basically an asphalt street treatment that we use. It's a first line of defense. Basically acts as a sealant on the cracks to prevent water and incompressible material like rocks and pebbles from getting down into those cracks and setting off further damage in the pavements. And as you'll see in a few slides, it sounds simple enough, but it is a high-tech operation. It's very specialized materials, very specialized equipment, and a very well-trained crew to do this efficiently is what's needed. So basically, if you imagine an asphalt pavement and you go look at it closely, you start to see cracks emerge over time. The longer they go, the wider they get, and the more dense, more cracks develop. If you catch them at just the right time and you rat out those cracks and apply a very hot air, high-pressure air to clean them out and dry them, and then you put in a special emulsified asphalt type material into those cracks, you basically cap them off and prevent the further damage. And this is just a picture. As you can tell between the two pictures, kind of from the front and the back, it's anywhere from a 6 to a 7 person crew, very specialized equipment. And when you see those folks operate, they get practiced at this really good. It's a very coordinated thing that they do. Why do we do it? It extends the life and quality of the pavements between our mill and overlays. You fix small problems before they become larger, and you actually preserve the ride service even during those interim periods when you're still maybe a decade away from a mill and overlay. You're going to see the improvement by not having as many ruts, not having as many potholes develop in the pavement. Our goal is to have 1 to 2 contracts awarded per year on an ongoing basis when we get to where we'd like to be. And nearly any city street, no matter whether it's new or it's been overlaid a couple of times, is a candidate for crack seal as long as we catch it early enough to manage the cracks. There is a philosophy in street maintenance that used to be kind of worst first. That does not apply in crack seal and in most maintenance treatments. There's kind of a sweet spot that we have to catch these pavements at where this type of intervention will do the most good. When it is done, it's more the cost effectiveness is excellent. Just in terms of the treatment itself, if you compare, say, $10 per square yard for a mill and overlay, we're talking maybe 75 cents for the same area of pavement to be selectively crack sealed. Now, they aren't the same treatment, and you're going to do several iterations of crack seal, hopefully between every mill and overlay. But you might gain another 5 years of lifespan between, say, every 20 to 25 or every 25 to 30 year type cycle between grind and overlay when you do this crack seal as part of a larger treatment scheme. I've seen industry estimates that say that you might even save for every dollar spent as much as 6 in delayed reconstruction. I think that's a pretty optimistic goal, but even if we were saving $2 for every dollar spent, that's the kind of benefit cost ratio that allows us to stay ahead and keep ahead of the curve. We're not going to go through this slide in much detail, but I just wanted you to know that there is a lot of science behind asphalt pavement maintenance. The little bit that I will show you is the idea is if you just put an asphalt street out there and you just don't touch it again, it's going to go down, 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 down until it's done and you have to rip the entire thing out and start over again. If you catch it kind of at this intermediate level with these blue lines and you do basic repair and maintenance, crack seal is just one piece of a whole maintenance system, you can keep catching it and you can keep kind of lifting it up, and if you do that over time, you dramatically increase the amount of time you can make it before major interventions. That's all this slide really shows. And why do you do it? Basically, you're trying to keep the water out over time. The surface, those cracks extend, that water gets into the subgrade, and that is where nearly every pavement failure is it's basically a failure of the rocks underneath the asphalt. This is what a crack seal looks like. If you've been in many of our streets and many other city streets, you kind of notice over time. It's not pretty, but it works, and it works in any neighborhood with any price scale of houses This is what cities do to make it work. And our initial proposal, we're getting back in the swing of it. When the economic downturn hit, we did get off of the crack seal regime. Also, what we're proposing today is better quality materials and a more commodity approach to getting large volumes done. In the past, we did it in-house, and it was one of many duties as assigned, and our equipment and our approach weren't necessarily the same as what we're proposing here. But we have 21.7 miles of roadway for $150,000 that has actually already been contracted, and that work's going to begin in a few weeks. This initial contract does focus on a list of subdivisions that I have in the next slide. It's basically a pilot area, newer subdivisions in the 5 to 15-year time range, more homogeneous conditions, a better test case. And although it's always good to crack seal, certainly the newer pavements, those are the ones where we stand to gain the most long-term life extension by getting on them and getting this done. It really doesn't cause that much in the way of traffic disruptions. We will get notices out to the neighborhood leaders, and there'll be door hangers that go out in the neighborhoods when they happen. We estimate we have about 1,800 households that will be next to in about the next month and a half doing this crack seal. Certainly some of those will probably give you a call, and you can feel free to give us a call or just send them directly onto Public Works, and we'll chat with them and have one of our inspectors talk to anyone who has a concern. This is the list of the 2014 sites, and I'll just read them off: Delaware Ridge, Delaware Highlands, Swan Lake, Rolling Meadows, Whispering Ridge, Swanson Farms, Pavilions of Piper, and Freeman Farms. And then that's going to give us a good test case. Mr. Kane, we thought, why not just let one commissioner get used to this before we go citywide? But really, this is just where we had a concentration of the subdivisions that were in the right time frame to run this pilot project on. Everyone else, we hope, will be invited to get their turn as we move this program forward. And
So
with that, I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
I have a question right here. So for the first time since I've been here, we're going to do something in the 5th District first. I want you to repeat that. Come on now. You can do it. It's okay.
Yes,
I'm not
sir.
mad at you.
Yes, sir, you get it this time.
Congratulations.
Mr. Heatherman, based on the results of the survey we just completed, the citizen survey, that suggested streets and roads were the high priority, 21.7 miles doesn't seem like a lot of miles to me. Is there a plan on the part of Public Works to suggest a higher level of this sealing, crack and seal process?
Yes, sir. It would be my recommendation that we continue to grow these kind of basic interventions and provide the funding so that we can expand these types of programs.
All right.
Any further questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, which is why I'm sure you're all here. A presentation by Commissioner Murguia, who always dreams big and always tells us she dreams big.
Yes. So I'd like, if you don't mind, Commissioners, I'd like to have Mr. Bach join me and, go ahead. So first of all, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, fellow commissioners, for letting me come today, Mr. Bryant, and give this presentation. Before I get into the actual public safety facility that I want to discuss with you, I want to give you a little bit of background on how this project came about. I think most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with the current South Patrol Police Facility. It is currently in an 800 to 1,000 square foot residential home on Woodland at approximately 32nd Street. And our SCORE unit is housed in what I affectionately will term as sort of a barn. And so if you have forgotten what this facility looks like, I have had our staff print out a picture so that you can get a good idea what it looks like. There's the SCORE facility, and I will find you yes, and here's the actual South Patrol. So as you can see, it's probably not the best police facility for a community of our size. So about a year ago, this last summer, I had the opportunity of becoming familiar with Hafer Wysocki, which is an architectural firm. They are the architects on the new library in Argentine that was built a couple of years ago. And I had a great conversation with these gentlemen, and they offered to do a pro bono project for me. And so I suggested that they meet up with administration, Unified Government Administration, and the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department administration, and begin to work towards the design of a new public safety facility to take the place of South Patrol. With administration's okay, they began, I think it was a week or a 2-week planning process where they actually met with several officers at headquarters and really brainstormed about what would be good amenities to have in a public safety facility on the south side of Wyandotte County. So again, to Commissioner Kane's comment, I asked them specifically to dream big and not consider finance for once. I really wanted to get honest feedback about if they could have what they needed and wanted, what would it look like and how much would it cost? Well, after the planning was done and a general idea of the design was developed, we got some rough cost estimates. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit about money, but don't hold me exactly to every dollar. Doug will talk a little bit more about that. But in general terms, what came back was it was going to cost approximately $6 million to build this new public safety facility. So I'm going to rewind a little bit. Most of you commissioners remember a development that came in front of you a few months ago, which encompassed a brand new Walmart neighborhood market. Some of you might be familiar with this site as the old structural steel site. It's a former Superfund site that has been partially remediated. As a result of your willingness to TIF this area and offer a CID on this area, the Walmart over the next 20 years, our conservative estimate is that it will generate an additional $3 million in revenue. That's a conservative estimate, okay, over the next 20 years. So taking that into consideration, that we could potentially use the $3 million from the Walmart to buy down some of the debt on a new South Patrol facility, it still left us with a $3 million gap. So now to talk to you about a different issue. Then about a month or two ago, Commissioner Maddox had an outcry in his district about the Department of Corrections wanting to locate near a daycare facility within his district. They were not happy about that and did not want to see that happen. At the time, I was approached by some officials at the state of Kansas who asked for my help in finding another location. What you should all know is that every county has a parole office. And if we don't decide where that parole office is going to go, then the state is going to decide for us. So I decided to take a look at some options. Well, much to our new administrator's credit, when I asked them to dream big about the new South Patrol Police Station, he had the foresight, Mr. Bach had the foresight to say, you know, we might want to encompass another department within this building in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not sure what that department was, but it was obviously something that worked well with police. So the current facility that's designed is much bigger than the current need. So when the parole facility came up as needing a new home, I thought, what better of a location for parolees to report than a police station where 24/7 we have Kansas City, Kansas police officers. I thought it really was a great fit. What else I thought was a great fit is that there was a 10-year lease agreement that would pay $2 million from the state of Kansas, which closed the gap to about $1 million of money that may or still may not need to come from the unified government. because what you may remember is that this Walmart development also encompasses additional retail down here. Can you all see this picture good enough? Okay, if you can't, can you hold this one up? Just, can you hold it for the crowd behind us and maybe help them? So as these retail developments get built out, as these retail developments get built out, they will also generate taxes, which also will go back into the TIF, which will also be available to be spent on buying down the debt on this new South Patrol facility. So I'm just sort of the big dreamer, as Commissioner Kane said. And so what I thought this was a great solution to a very contentious issue that took place a couple of months ago. And I thought that in this situation, this was a possibility where everyone could be winners. So in anticipation of this meeting, I will tell you I did meet with all the neighborhood groups in closest proximity to this site, which was be in the Argentine area. It's off 18th Street Expressway in Metropolitan, to give you your point of reference. Mr. Bryant was nice enough to attend that meeting. There was a large crowd, and I very specifically asked those community leaders if there was anyone that objected to this type of development. And he will, I think, can vouch for me that not one person in this large crowd raised their hand in objection to this. Now, all of that said, the whole reason I'm here tonight presenting to you is I would like to ask all of you to follow our newly established process, thanks to Commissioner Markley and Commissioner McKiernan, or I'm bringing an idea forward to this standing committee that involves public safety. And I would like you to consider allowing staff to begin negotiations with the Department of Corrections to see if there is a deal that is financially feasible. In addition, it allows staff to hold public meetings that will be advertised so that everyone will be aware of them and everyone will have the chance to be heard on this potential development. So what else I would ask you is that if you are seriously considering this proposal, I would absolutely hope that you would vote to push it through tonight so staff can work on it. But if this is not a project that in the end, after staff has spent hours and days and weeks on bringing it together, if you're not interested in seeing this move forward, then I would ask you not to vote for it tonight, because it gives a false sense of hope to people that would like to see this happen. So I'm going to turn it over just briefly to Doug Bach, if he has anything he'd like to add before you have any questions.
In going over this with Commissioner Marghi, I think the key to it was what she's bringing forth tonight is not a proposal that has the financial end to it. I think my review of it more put us in line with saying, okay, this is a project like we'll oftentimes get in public works, where we may have a road or a street project come before you that is not up there on our CMIP plan as far as one that we've decided to fund. In fact, this is not even on our 5-year CMIP plan at this point. So from a priority and need, while we fully recognize the need that we're in facilities that are outdated and we could replace them, we oftentimes have to break projects down by a matter of saying, what do we have to have in order to get our work done, and this facility operates and is sufficient today. But just like a public works project like we brought before you that we go for the MARC funding or the Tiger funding a couple of weeks ago, we wouldn't be moving those to the front of our CMIP list today if we didn't have the opportunity to go after grant funding for those. So I compare this in that nature, that if it looks like we could get about half our funding for a $6 million facility to come in from other sources, then it's kind of like a grant in a way that we would go through and evaluate it from that perspective. Also, then the revenue flow that would be coming in from the TIF, and I appreciate the Commissioner's comment that says conservatively. I don't know that I would quite give it that much, but there is the opportunity that our portion of it after 15 or 18 years could get funded back to us from the TIF district. You would have to pay for that all in up front, but still, you're looking at half of the project funding if the rest of it works. So it's kind of like that, saying we would be pursuing an opportunity here where if it works out, the worst-case scenario is you'd pay for half of a new facility for us. And that makes it, I guess, from a management perspective, one, we'd come forth and say, okay, it makes sense for us to pursue it and see whether this is a development opportunity we would want to continue to work with.
So Ann, what you're really asking for is permission for them to start negotiating and then come back later to say, here's what we came up with.
Exactly. But only if in the end, you all collectively are seriously interested about moving the project forward. I just don't want us to bring something forward that you wouldn't really consider, because you do need to know that the Department of Corrections needs a new home by the end of this year. So this would be a very fast-paced project. You'd need to be willing to act quickly.
Are there any questions from the commission?
I move that we send this forward for information.
I do have a question, though. I was at the meeting the other night, and I will confirm that there was nobody who's like immediately completely put off. There were some questions from the audience that I think Commissioner Murguia did a good job at answering them. So it was my understanding from that meeting the other night that it would be 10 years of $2 million a year revenue from the state. Now, after that first year, which the $2 million goes toward the building, does the other $2 million, is that used just for the upkeep of the program for the parole office, or is that $2 million into the general fund, back to the city?
I'm not sure I understand. Say again, Jeff. Ask me the
Well,
question.
I thought what I heard was that the state will pay $2 million a year.
No, not $2 million a year.
it was
$2
$2
million
million
over
total.
a 10-year lease. But I'll take that $2 million a
Well, I
year
would
deal.
too.
If you know someone that was
No.
offering that up.
Yeah, that's my misunderstanding then. The other one, I can kind of have an idea of what the effect on the property values will be in that immediate area. Obviously, I would imagine they would go up because of the security. But what will that do or expected to do to the property values in the area that's already has South Patrol in it?
Well, that's a great question. I can't speak to property values and the effect of moving a police station out of the neighborhood. But I will tell you, one of my concerns was that if we no longer utilize that South Patrol facility, what would happen to it? And I have some very good news for you. I'm sure you all that are South Side are familiar with the Maple Hill Funeral Home, which abuts the police facility now. I actually, 2 years ago, was approached by Mike and Danny Matney, the owners of that funeral home, that they would like to buy South Patrol because they would like to use the barn for their equipment, not human beings like we use it for. So they would be interested in that, because what I was not interested in seeing happen is another boarded-up building within close proximity to my district or in my district.
Well, I would just, if we vote to move this forward for further discussion, if there would be any way to kind of look at that, because that's still part of my district, is where the South Patrol
Sure.
is now, just kind of have an idea of what impact that's going to have on the property values in Maple Hill area.
Yeah, we can factor that into our evaluation as we go to it. I mean, there's pros and cons, as Commissioner notes. In the economic equation, if we think we have a realistic opportunity to sell it and put that back on the tax rolls, that's positive. But also for the residents that are evaluating it, they want to know what we would sell it for and what could be in there, to come into their neighborhoods in place of what we have today.
Yeah, I had a question.
Go ahead.
The South Patrol has always, it seemed like, as long as I can remember, been at that location. It's barely in Turner. It's almost in Argentine. The dividing line is a half a block down. And As long as I can remember, you could not go there and actually get police services. If you're lucky, you could stop there and catch a policeman who's changing shift or getting off shift, but there was no go in and file a report. You had to drive all the way downtown, or you had to drive to Indian Springs later. I don't think it's going to have an impact on how the police patrol. The districts are going to stay the same number of cars presumably. They're not going to increase more cars in Argentine because they're now in Argentine. So to the extent that there's some comfort in being able to look out a few houses there along 34th and see police cars and a police station, that will be lost to those homes in the nearby vicinity. I think police will be able to respond in as timely a fashion as they do now. I don't think there'll be any significant change. What I hope is that we can go down to the Argentine station, fill out a report, do whatever business we have to do without having to come all the way to 7th and Minnesota in the middle of the night when there's been an incident or an occurrence. That's the positive aspect of it for me. And the proximity, it's a mile and a half away, and maybe not quite that far, depending on what route you take. So,
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. I had a couple questions of clarification. So is this a $2 million gap or $3 million gap?
It's a $3 million gap. But
Okay.
again, these are very rough numbers, as Administrator Bach is going to tell you. So it's approximately still $1 million short.
Okay. And then the other question is, how are we being asked to pay for it? And then the question after that is, if we do decide to pay for it, how soon will we pay for it, and when will we start paying?
Can't specifically answer that question yet, but I would generally assume the gap that we look at from the unified government side of it would be a GO bond that we would issue, and you would pay for it from your debt financing. So I think even if we look at it and determine that there's enough excess revenue coming from this development project, you will not have access to that revenue for a minimum of 15 years, maybe 17 or 18, because that's how the rest of the project would pay off. And then there would be excess revenue that would come available then, and it could pay back all that we owed for the previous 17 years, but you're not going to have access to it then. So you'd have to issue a GO bond now, or a temporary note as we go through the construction cycle. Then you would start to take it from your debt. So the amount of money that we went through in great detail over the last couple of weeks, where we have about $13.5 million in annual payments that are going into debt, a couple $100,000 of that amount is going to have to come from that source. So you either have to increase the amount that you dedicate in terms of millage that goes into that debt funding, or you take something else out of it in order to pay for this. I can say it could turn out to be, over time, a project that pays for itself, but I don't see any way in looking at the numbers that we're now that you're not going to have to fund it for the next 15 to 17 years and then see if the revenue comes back to pay for it.
Commissioner Walker.
Is there a possibility that you could shop this parole center building as a private development? And obviously, if there's a 10-year lease, clearly there is a guarantee for a private developer, at least for the first 10 years. Is that the concept, or was the concept that we were going to own the building, we being the people of Wyandotte County, the UG, at the end of the lease, and then we would have to find another tenant or use it ourselves?
We'll look at it both ways.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
in fact, that's been proposed that somebody be a private sector would own it, and then we would just pay. To the same point, I still believe you're going to have a payment to make. So it's, what position are we in that's better 15 years from now? To have, can we lower our payment enough over time that makes that a better deal? Or do we lease with an option to buy within the structure of a deal? Because then we get TIF revenues that come into it, or just ones that we own it outright. Since as public sector we own it, then we're not paying property tax. And there's different ways you can look at that property tax piece too, because it flows into the TIF and can be directly applied toward the bottom line.
That
or
was what
not pay it.
appeals to me about the private developer, if there's one willing to,
I think we do have one
basically, we
willing,
would be
so-
shifting some of the risk off of us and delaying the reality of the payment until at least 10 years down the road, perhaps.
Maybe.
I'd just like to add to
Commissioner
that,
Maddox.
Commissioner Walker, that Ferguson Property has also donated a substantial amount of time and effort, they're in the crowd this evening, to this project. We have not paid them anything, and they've been involved from the onset, just like Hafer Wysocki has been involved in the design and planning process. Also, keep in mind, Commissioner Maddox, to add to what Administrator Bach is saying, that's the beauty of the lease payment. There are a variety of ways to structure this, and that's why we wanted, before we spend any more time on it, we wanted to get permission to do that. But that's the beauty of the lease payment, is that that lease payment can go to help buy down bond debt so that we don't have to come up with cash. You all just remember our budget session where we don't have a lot of cash. So that's the beauty of the lease. And then what Commissioner Walker said is that's another way, is to use the lease payment to pay a lease to purchase also.
Okay. Well, and thank you. I have no problem supporting this project. I do know, though, that when we look at the budget in July, that we will have to look at things roughly across the board, because there are other things like this. And I know you're a big dreamer, but there's other things that other commissioners also need in our district. And I know at times we pull and we, what they call rob Peter to pay Paul. But at some point, we have to be able to come up with a way to where we can satisfy everybody's need the same way in the budget process. And so I said that to say that I would support it. I don't have a problem with it. And then I also want to say, when it comes to the parole, the actual current parole building proposal, which is actually at 7th and State in my district, that was an issue for us because it's right in the backyard of a daycare, and that's a dilemma. I also want to be on note to say that it was first brought to us by Representative Valdinia Wynn, who called it at the state level, who felt it was a dilemma because it had not been brought to her, but was already a decision made on it. After that, we took it on, and then Commissioner at Large District Howell wrote up the actual resolution when we sent it back to Topeka and said we did not want it there. As a result, we are here now. And so I say thank you, Ann, for being innovative and putting this project together. I say thank you, Hal, for actually writing the actual resolution. And thanks to the staff who actually also helped Ann put this actual project together. And so I said all that to say we did not want it there. The citizens in the 4th District did not want it there. And as a result of you working hard and the staff working hard, we have the possibility of moving it. But at the same time, even though I know we're asked for money in the process to approve it, I don't have a problem with that. But again, when it comes to budget season, I hope we will do that equally across districts to be able to make some other things happen that are very important.
Commissioner Maddox, I really appreciate your comments. The only thing I would add that I haven't told the commission yet is I think all of you know that in my day job I'm a fundraiser, and I've already submitted a large grant to the Walmart Foundation to help buy down additional debt on this facility. And I think most of you are familiar with my track record. You all were great partners in building a brand-new grocery store in the Argentine area, the Save-A-Lot, that's located very close on this site plan. And if you didn't know, I would tell you that myself and my team was able to raise over $1.5 million to buy down the debt on that grocery store. $617,000 came from Kathleen Sebelius, our former governor, and $400,000 in the way of tax credits came from our current governor, Governor Sam Brownback. So it was definitely a bipartisan initiative that took place. I think I have the ability to continue to raise money for these kinds of projects. And even if you all decide, hey, we're going to take some risk and move this project forward, just because the project starts doesn't mean I'll stop trying to raise money to help buy down the debt. I just want to reassure all of you of that.
Commissioner Philbrook.
I just have one more question, and that is, what did you say your timeline on this was? You went over that one pretty quickly, ma'am.
I know, that's a great question, Commissioner Philbrook, and it is our concern, but I have to speak, I have to give our new administrator, Mr. Bach, a compliment on this. When we went and met with the Secretary of Corrections, and he said, our lease is up, I believe it was July, but for this project, he would be willing to try to negotiate a month-by-month lease until December sometime. And he looked right at our administrator and said, can you move quickly? And I was very proud of him that he said, I think Wyandotte County has learned how to move quickly. So I thought that was a pretty impressive comment, and it showed great initiative on his part, and I think we can get this done.
So when does that mean you'll be coming back to us?
Quickly.
Do we have the motion and second?
You don't
We have a
sec-
motion, no
you do
second.
Do not have a second.
I'll second it, so you can open it for
Okay.
comment.
When, well, that's a good question. Do we open this for public comment, or we just want the folks in support of it to stand up?
So I would just ask, because I know a number of people have had contact with me, if you're in support of this project and you're in attendance at the meeting tonight, if you would just please stand, I would greatly appreciate that.
And stay standing.
Can somebody count that? What, how many is it?
30 to 4.
Okay. All righty, thank you.
Our poor officers are not allowed to stand that are in uniform. That's not fair.
I move the question.
So in fairness, Commissioner Kane, I would just ask that anybody that's here that's
Anybody that's
not in
opposed to
favor.
it, would you please stand?
Yes.
Seeing none, roll call on the question.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Thank you, and I look forward to the project.
Thanks.
Item number 5 is seeking input from the UG's position on proposal with the City of Edwardsville. Bob Rutting from Public Works. And this item is for discussion only.
In a minute, we'll get a map up when we find someone with better technical skills than me. The proposal I'm bringing forward is the City of Edwardsville approached the unified government over a year or two ago, wanting to basically develop property south of I-70 near 110th Street. They have about 200 acres adjacent to I-70 that they want to develop in the years to come. And right now, for it to be accomplished, they need sewer service. So what they're proposing to do is pump the wastewater from the south side across I-70. This map up here, this is I-70. This is 435 over here. This is the Speedway. This is Chateau Avalon. And this is UG property. These lines here are their proposed sewer route, and this line here is what they'd be connecting to, which is what the city owns. So this is the property over here they want to develop. They want to build this force main to pump into our system. It's within our interlocal agreement to be allowed. We've checked our sewer line to make sure that the amount of water they're bringing does not exceed the capacity of our sewer. We recommend that it's certainly, from an engineering point of view, very viable project to achieve. The question that I bring to the commission tonight is the issue of the easement. When we allow them to come to the unified government, they're basically going to be using some property that the government owns. There's two positions you could take on this. One is that you could say that they have to buy that easement in a market condition, or we can give it to them. The easement that we are giving them or would give them is on the perimeter It really doesn't impact the property all that great. It's a buried force main. You'll be able to put parking lot on top of it. You'll be able to use it as your setbacks. But it does have some value to it. The reason why we're bringing it to you, we haven't set a firm value as to the value of that easement, but it's probably can be argued to be worth maybe $50,000. And when we look at our disposal of property rules, we're getting to the point where we should at least to be transparent, to show the commissioners what we're doing and get their input before we proceed. So I believe the question for our staff would be, A, do we give it to the city for their economic development, or should we, in fact, have them buy from us?
Commissioner Markley.
So what kind of development are they proposing? Because I'm wondering if whatever is going to be developed there is going to bring us tax income on the county side, in which case we can kind of feel some balance from that transaction.
Well, I don't know if anyone's here from Edwardsville.
There was a hand.
I don't know if they've got a use right now, but I anticipate, well, it certainly would be my hope that, there's some county taxes that are raised. Frequently, in situations like this, the government has used its decisions on sewer expansion to further economic development. So, for example, we do that with our own water pollution department, where we see a benefit by the property taxes, sales tax development, and I would assume that the same is here.
Commissioner Walker.
I wish Commissioner Walters was here for this tonight, because he represents that district, and that includes Edwardsville and Bonner Springs. Personally, we are not afforded the opportunity on many occasions as a unified government to do benefit to Edwardsville and Bonner, since they have retained their independent city status. As far as I'm concerned, I would just give them the easement. The idea being that ultimately, if they are successful in developing that property, I mean, it would benefit the county side of the ledger. It's something that the UG could do for Edwardsville, and clearly, if it were $1 million, maybe it would be, but clearly it's not. As long as it has no residual impact on the unified government property that diminishes its value in the marketplace, and they're paying for the extension under the I-70 and across to the pump station, give it to them. That's my opinion.
I might add also that the easement corridor that would be on the UG property would be available for other utilities. So, for example, if the Speedway sometime in the future ever wanted to develop over here and had to use that same easement for a sewer connection, that ground could be used for other utilities as well.
Commissioner Philbrick.
Quick question. So we give it to them, they pay for all that, and then we process their sewage, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, so,
We're not that foolish.
yeah, cute. But so when we say we process their sewage, are we going to be charging them?
Oh, yes, they pay like any other KCK resident or customer.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Rowdy. Do we need a motion?
I think so, yes, that would be good.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is there, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we dedicate at no cost the easement across unified government property to the city of Edwardsville for the purpose of sewer easement.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the public? Roll call on the motion.
Roll call, Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Item number 6 is a presentation by Captain Angel of the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department regarding animal control at the request of Commissioner Philbrick.
It's,
And this is for, this item is for discussion only.
it's a combination. They blue sheeted it.
I stand corrected.
It's a blue sheet.
It's now the blue sheet.
Yes, with Captain Michelle Angel of the Police Department and Katie Barnett. And so everybody come forward, please. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Angel. I'm a captain with Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, and I'm currently assigned as the Director of Animal Control.
Can I say something briefly?
Yes.
I'd like to thank you ladies for your hard work that you've done so far, because I know you picked up the ball and you've been running hard with it. So thank you very
We're
much.
definitely trying. All right, as you know, animal control falls under the police department. It allows us to provide a unique service to the citizens of Kansas City, Kansas, because we not only can do the law enforcement agency in protecting the people and their property, but we also work on the humane organization side to protect the animals also. Also, I think you know that irresponsible pet owners and the over-pet population are the main reason that any animal control agency exists, and we definitely have our share of that in our city. This is just a little bit of our statistical data for 2012 and 2013. I just want you to take note that our shelter intake actually dropped from 2012 and 2013. And I'm sure you're all aware it's not because the problem's not getting better out there. The drop was due to state mandates that we had to come into compliance with. It decreased the actual capacity that we could have in the shelter because of some of the mandates that they required under the cleaning protocols and some other stuff. So that is the main reason that we dropped there. One of the biggest thing is, like I mentioned, the cleaning protocols. It takes 2 of my animal control officers 4 hours to clean and feed the animals every day. Also, part of the intake drop is the fact that it takes longer to find, rescue, and adopt animals out versus the old school of just euthanizing them. The state came in and basically some of the stuff that used to go on, doubling dogs up in kennels, just really packing them in, we no longer can do that. So it definitely limits our space. I also want to point out that our summons that we issued for 2013 went up drastically because one of my initiatives has been enforcement. I found that we were giving lots of people lots of warnings and they never corrected the problem. So working with the court system, we now issue the citations. The reason we issue the citations, we're still looking for compliance. We work with the court system. If the person gets a ticket for spay, neuter, rabies shot, city license, if they come down and they get everything in order prior to the court date, the judge dismisses those and all they pay is court cost. So we're still looking for compliance. This is just a pie chart for 2012 on the dispositions of our animals, the ones that were euthanized, released to owner, adopted, and transferred to rescue groups. Here's 2013. You'll notice there's not a lot of difference. Even though our numbers were different, the percentages were still pretty much the same. The percentages look good, but I think you can all agree that something's still not working. We still have a problem in Kansas City, Kansas with the animals. We still have a large number of packs all throughout the city. We have a large number of neglected animals and loose dogs also all over the city that need to find ways to solve these issues. It takes time to find rescue for these animals, and so we need to start looking at other ways to deal with the problem. After, I don't know, maybe we can move in with South Patrol, but we need a larger facility. I mean, we are not large enough to accommodate the cities for the size that we are.
Can you fill that $1 million gap? Because we might take out another tenant.
I wish I could. So like I said, larger facility obviously is going to be larger staff. I think you guys are all aware that I've got 4 positions that are frozen at animal control, unfunded. There's 1 supervisor position out in the field that is unfunded and 3 animal control officers. So we're already seeing that. And then the less popular thought process is to simply euthanize for space. But I do want to just kind of figuring the numbers. If you figured in taking in an animal, holding it for the 5 days, and then euthanizing it at the end, under our current space, that's only slightly over 2,000 animals. And I think you all will agree that we have a lot more out there that need to be dealt with. On a brighter note, in 2012, we lost our veterinarian, and we went in through an RFP process for veterinarian services. We entered into a contract with the Humane Society of Greater Kansas City, and they now provide us our veterinary services at animal control. We're also currently in the process of setting up a surgery suite on site, and they've already began bringing in some of their own equipment while we're waiting, and they are performing spay neuters and other minor surgeries on all of our adoption animals on site. And this saves the city a lot of money. We're not paying by the procedure, we're paying a vet by the hour. It also saves time, because I used to have to work with different area vets getting different animals in different places. I had to have an animal control officer load up the truck, take them there, and then at the end of the day turn around and do the same process all over again. So it's been a huge success, and I can't thank them enough for doing that at our facility. It's definitely an improvement.
So for
Go ahead.
clarification, you pick up an animal, the stray, and so you got a surgeon on site that will spay and neuter, and then when the owner comes to get the animal, they are charged or summoned, or how does that?
No, we only do the surgeries on the animals that we're going to move over to our adoption side, and I'll cover that in just a second. Any of the animals that go to rescue, we've talked about it, we might get there, but we're not there yet, but we don't currently do the surgeries on those. But the Humane Society, through the Ray of Hope program, does provide any rescue group that's pulling an animal from our facility a voucher, and they cover a certain amount of cost for the spay neuter to help rescues pull from our facility.
Commissioner Walker.
Probably not. Okay, how long have you been at animal control?
A little over 2 years.
Kind of like doing time in the state pen, is it?
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I've known other captains in the past that have had this duty. Let me ask you a fundamental question. Should the police department, in your opinion, actually be the agency in charge of animal control?
Animal control, yes. As far as the shelter side of it, I truly believe that should be a rescue organization. Unfortunately, I did do the numbers on that. I worked with some outside agencies that use different agencies like Great Plains. Many Johnson County agencies, they contract with Great Plains. When they take a dog, they take it to Great Plains, but they are paying an intake fee to have Great Plains take that animal in, plus any vet fees. And I just ballparked what Overland Park was paying with our intake numbers, and it was going to be over $500,000. And I will just tell you that I know Kansas City, Missouri, using spay neuter or KC Pet Project, it increases. I mean, if an officer can go grab a dog and throw it off to somebody else, the numbers will increase. So I would say it's going to be more than that.
I'm sorry for the unfair question. I know your chief was back there, but when I was on staff, and I've always struggled with this, I recall why that was put under the police department, because it was running amok and it was not getting the job done, and the structure of the quasi-military organization was seen as a way to bring animal control into a better performance standard. But I feel like, at least maybe the part where the animals are left should be civilianized or privatized, and I don't have a good solution for that. So I didn't mean to interrupt your
That's okay. The one thing I would say to that is the fact that being under the police department personnel are pretty good at following rules. And even though I'm good at following rules.
I was the lawyer for the police department for many years.
I know.
We'll have to talk sometime.
But I can look at the laws and follow the laws as they're written, where I think sometimes when you have it privatized, maybe people are thinking more about the ends justifying the means. So it is a constant struggle to get it done and get it done within the guidelines of the law, and they keep increasing, making it more difficult.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Proceed.
all right. Also with the Humane Society, they have the Ray of Hope program. We use their volunteers through the Ray of Hope program, and they sit with our animals, our dogs and our cats that are up for adoption out at the Olathe PetSmart every Saturday and Sunday. We do a phenomenal amount of adoptions out there. And I know some people have complained because it's not in KCK, but we don't have a PetSmart in KCK. We adopt a lot of animals out there, and not only do we get the adoption fees that goes back to the city, but PetSmart also donates $15 to animal control for every animal that we adopt through their facility. And it does add up. So hopefully you'll see that as a benefit. Here's just a few of our success stories, and we do a phenomenal amount. We probably adopt anywhere, probably on average, 10 animals a weekend out there. I've mentioned the Humane Society that we're working with, but we're also working with Unleashed Pet Rescue. They come in and they coordinate pulling animals from us and coordinate with other rescue groups. We have animals that are pulled and go all over the United States, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I mean, it's Colorado. It's crazy. And then Spay Neuter Kansas City, if you're not aware of this, they have a grant for Kansas City, Kansas for low cost and no cost spay neuters. So not only does the Humane Society provide services like that, but they also provide services to our citizens as well. And then I will let Katie, who's the attorney for professionals for Humane and Safe KC, kind of go into that, but I've been working with them also. Now, not all doom and gloom. We have been making progress down there. Garage, the stray cat room, the adoption cat room, surgery room, all of those, they have been painted. The lighting was updated. And then the dog kennel area, while we had it empty for the flooring project, it was painted and the lighting was updated. And it is a much brighter place. It was pretty gloomy before that. We have the surgery room and recovery room that are being set up. There was 3 kennels in the garage that we were able to enclose for the isolation area that the state wanted us to have. Our stray cats used to be housed in the garage area. They've been moved. We took a storage room and emptied it out, and have moved them to their own room. This allows them to be better assessed in a quieter environment for their health and behavior. And our shelter cleaning protocols, working with the Humane Society and the state, have been enhanced. And then our largest project that we just completed here not long ago was the epoxy flooring was installed throughout the back kennel area, and it really looks nice. And what that did, before the floor was painted and it was chipped and peeling, and the state was very concerned about disease control. So this should get us through the end of my career. So this was a long-term project. This is a good thing. Some goals I laid out for my crew here in 2014 was enforcement and education. Wanted to keep the numbers up from what we saw in 2013 and have challenged them to do even greater. I'm looking at implementing a shelter management software program. This will allow us to monitor neglects better because you can put everything in there. If everything works out right, the officers would have a notebook out in the field. They'd be able to pull up if they were on a call with a neglect and it's a second call, they'd be able to actually go back and look at the pictures from the first call to see if anything's changed. Right now, currently, when we issue a city license, we handwrite it all out. This program would allow us to type it in and issue them a really nice, professional-looking license. So, I mean, that's a whole presentation in itself, everything that type of program could do. But we're also working this year to continue to improve the shelter, working with Building Logistics to do everything we can to keep complying with the state mandates of the Kansas Pet Animal Act. One issue we really haven't found a good solution to, when our kennels were built, they were built when you held the dog for 3 to 5 days and you euthanized it. So we didn't worry about disease control as much. Now that the animals are transferred, and transferred sometimes across state lines, the state's very concerned about disease control. Our facility has an open drain system, which means 3 or 4 kennels share one drain. So there's a section at the back where when you're cleaning it out, the feces and everything runs through, and that's why you've got to keep one row open to keep that constant rotation, because they cannot be in those runs when it's being cleaned. So the state would still like to see that enclosed somehow. We just haven't figured out a good way to do that. And then also, animal control really does get a bad rap. I'm glad I've been down there these couple years because I really got to see this side of it. And for what they have and the resources they have to work with, that staff does a really good job. I mean, they get yelled at all day long because we didn't get something picked up quick enough, and we didn't, the deer laid on the corner too long type deal. And they really are doing the best they can with what resources and what manpower we have. So I'm glad to be in there, but we are working to increase the unit professionalism because definitely that's what we need to be doing. And then the doom and gloom of it is, as you guys know, our facility was opened in 1986, and there's still numerous maintenance items needing attention. Our furnace system and the kennel HVAC system are huge deals. They're limping along. They're constantly down there putting in parts. The HVAC system, it's getting harder and harder to find parts for it. And one of the things under the Kansas Pet Animal Act is the temperature. We have guidelines that the temperature has to stay between, and if that system goes out, that is a very costly system. I haven't priced it, but I've been told they're about $500,000. Our telephone system is extremely outdated. We don't have, it's so outdated that you can't even buy phones anymore for it. So as phones break, we lose a phone station. So I would really like to look to getting a new phone system, especially one that would have a recording so people don't just sit there and get the ringing phones. They would actually get a recording and an option to leave a message or what they needed to do. But there's lots of things we can look into with that. Our sewer system down there has a drainage issue. That's a constant thing. We've constantly got, like once a week, the street department comes in and pumps the garage deal because it's nasty. And then our roof, anybody know, it's not leaking yet, but obviously it's something to start thinking about. And then the biggest issue that we need to think about is just kennel capacity. We're not large enough for this city. And I've taken all of our storage space using every nook and cranny to put animals. And that's all I have. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thanks. I've got a series of questions. The first one is, are we a no-kill city? I heard you speak about euthanasia, but are we a no-kill city?
I'm going to say no to that. Our numbers have qualified the last couple of years somewhat. I mean, there's really, if you ask 10 people what no-kill is, there's really no firm answer to that. But no, we put out a list every couple of weeks that these animals have to be moved or they're going to be euthanized, and rescue pulls them.
Okay. If space is limited, what happens when you reach capacity? And I guess that answer is that it goes to rescue or euthanasia.
This is where I really wanted to make you guys aware of this, because when we reach capacity, you can't pick up anymore.
That's what I thought.
When we're at capacity, I mean, and it can happen, and none of the dogs are even able to be euthanized because they're still on their stray hold. So, but I also want to prepare you guys, because the packs, I mean, the calls that I get and the packs and the different things, that's a huge thing. And that, in my opinion, even though I want to save as many animals as I can, my job is still to protect the public. And we've got packs, we got people that can't even jog downtown because of the dogs and stuff. So we've got 2 traps. I'd like to look to buy more, and we are setting those traps. And we're having pretty good luck trapping dogs. And you're going to see our euthanasia numbers go up, because with the no-kill movement, all rescue groups are inundated with animals. So it is getting increasingly harder, and I've seen it even the 2 years I've been down there, to find a place for all of these animals.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times when I hear from constituents in my district, they have a concern because they call rescue for stray dogs and stray cats. But they said the people on the phone are kind of rough with them and tell them they're packed. What do they want them to do?
And again, that when the state came in and threatened to shut our doors, I have to follow their rules. And when
Okay.
we're at capacity, I can't take anything else in. As a matter of fact, if we have like a bite dog, I have to pay to have that dog boarded at another facility
Okay.
if I can't take it in.
Okay. Are pit bulls illegal in Kansas City, Kansas?
Currently, they are illegal in Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay. You said currently. Does that end at a certain point? Or-
No, I mean, there is a movement to try to lift that, but currently they are.
Okay. Okay. And then I asked, where are the rescue groups, and how long do we hold animals before they're sent to rescue groups? I think you may have answered some of that.
The state requires that we hold any animal 3 days. That doesn't include the day it's taken in. That doesn't include weekends or holidays. So three business days. Our city ordinance requires that we hold them additional 2 days if they're chipped or have tags, and we believe they have an owner or are known to have an owner. So that makes it 5 days, not including the day you take it in, not including weekends, not including holidays.
Okay. And then the rescue groups, are they official businesses, or some people just licensed from their homes? How does that work?
They're 501c3s, and anybody that we transfer to has to also be licensed with the state.
Okay. And I'll cut my questions off.
No, you're fine.
But I'm done.
Jeff?
What is your current capacity for dogs?
We have 2 rows that are stray rows, and there's 13 kennels on each side. So 39, we can have 39 stray dogs.
And how about cats?
Cats, I'd have to count, probably 6, 12, 18.
And you can't cut back on the number of cats to increase dogs, right?
No.
That's really my questions.
Are there any other questions? Thank you for the update.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think what this has done is raise a lot more questions for me about animal control. And I'm aware of this movement to repeal what they call breed discriminatory language. Primarily, I believe it applies to pit bulls here. Maybe there's another breed, but statistically, I think it's been shown that other breeds of animals can be just as violent. My parents, when I was a kid, had a chow, and it was and a Pekingese, which, although they were small, they were vicious when they wanted to be. well, I mean, when I tried to get into their space, like under the bed or something, you know. So obviously, that's an issue that the commission is going to have to address sooner or later. I've been made aware of this. Do you do the community cat program? You know
Right now, currently under our ordinances, it's against the law.
It's what?
It's illegal under our ordinances currently.
What?
Let Katie talk, let Katie talk.
She's going to cover a lot of
Okay,
that.
all right.
Probably, and
Well,
you
good.
know what, I'll probably.
All right, and Katie, you've got some information for us as well.
Yeah, I'll stay up here in case, but.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Can you get on there?
Okay. Thank you, everyone, on the committee for having me. Do you guys want to take a break or?
No, we're good.
You good? Keep moving? Okay, let's go. I'm Katie Barnett. I represent the Professionals for a Humane and Safe Kansas City. We are a coalition of the area animal shelters that serve municipal governments within the metro area. So that includes Great Plains SPCA, Kansas City Pet Project, Spay Neuter Kansas City, Wayside Waifs, the Humane Society of Greater Kansas City. This coalition of animal shelters got together because we felt like we did have a need to achieve a safer and more humane metro area. Captain Angel was kind enough to sit in on one of our meetings, and it sounded like we could get started right here in Kansas City, Kansas first. Our mission is to achieve a humane and safe Kansas City metro area through local legislative initiatives, effective policies between local governments and their animal shelters, progressive law enforcement training, and education for the community. Quickly, I have been doing this for a number of years. I was a legislative attorney after graduating from KU Law School for Best Friends Animal Society, and I traveled around the country, worked in about 30 cities nationwide on enacting similar animal laws to what we're going to talk about here today, as well as progressive animal sheltering policies. I worked with Topeka, Kansas to revamp their animal code, and recently worked with your neighbor Bonner Springs on overhauling their animal ordinance. So when I started working with Captain Angel about 7 months ago, we identified some community stakeholders, and that's really who I wanted to hear from. There are best practices to go by, but what I wanted to hear is what's going to work right here in Kansas City, Kansas. So I spoke with Livable Neighborhoods. I gave a presentation. I gave additional presentations after that to individual groups. I know I spoke with Commissioner Markley's Turner Neighborhood Group, and I got a lot of really valuable information from the community on what they wanted to see done, not just what we thought we should do. And as I said, I've worked with animal control. The police department is well aware of this initiative, as well as the legal department. And interestingly, I heard from Healthy Communities Wyandotte, and it really made sense that this comprehensive change that we're proposing included making it not just a humane and safe community, but also a healthy community for the residents, because healthy communities can propose all the trails they want, but if people are afraid to run and walk and take their dogs for a walk, nobody's going to use them because of the stray dogs. So we started working together, and I have met with them several times, and I think that we're kind of all on the same page as to what we want, what the community wants to make Kansas City better. So I know you all are aware of the results of the community survey that was recently done. I just want to isolate a few things. 39% of the community was dissatisfied with the quality of animal control, and 39% of respondents said that animal control should receive the most emphasis over the next 2 years. They ranked it up in the top 3. And finally, animal control ranked #1 in the important satisfaction survey, which meant that the community felt that animal control was highly important but had a very low satisfaction, and this turned into it being a very high priority on the survey. I took my own informal survey when I was talking to the community over the last 7 months, and the #1 problem, as Captain Angel reiterated, was stray dogs. The dogs at large are preventing people from enjoying their own property, and I spoke to a woman at the Turner neighborhood meeting who said that she likes to sit outside on her front porch with her dog. Now she has to carry a baseball bat and her cell phone because of all of the animals running into her property and harassing her and her dog. So that's not a great way to live here in Kansas City, Kansas, and I think that we can work on ways to change that. Again, and As you mentioned, Commissioner Walker, the public safety concerns surrounding dangerous animals are breed neutral. People aren't necessarily afraid of the way the dog looks, they're afraid of the way the dogs and animals are behaving. So that's something that we can take a look at. And then the other three things are, as Captain Angel said, the humane care of animals and the neglect going on in the community, reducing those community cats, those feral cats, reducing that community cat population, and raising the pet limit to something that's a little bit more agreeable to surrounding cities. So we're not preventing families from moving to Kansas City, Kansas, because they have 3 Labrador Retrievers instead of 2. So I'm just going to go over this briefly, and maybe we can have some more dialogue about it later, and I can also give you some more specific written materials. There are 3 prongs to this overarching goal of a safe and humane Kansas City, and that is legislative changes, ordinance changes, changes in policy, and humane education for the community. And the Professionals for a Humane and Safe Kansas City, and I believe Captain Angel also believes that all of 3 of these things need to work together. You can't change an ordinance and expect for everything to get better if you also don't provide the appropriate and adequate law enforcement training for animal control to enforce that new change in the law. And also, when you're talking about criminalizing the care of these pets, we really need to make sure that the community knows that there are resources out there. So instead of saying, I'm sorry I didn't feed my dog for 3 days, I just didn't have the money, they know that there's a food bank that they can go to, and this is something that is consistently distributed to the community through livable neighborhoods and information from the city. So quickly, these aren't just radical ideas from crazy animal people. These are actually best practices and policies and that are outlined by national animal organizations and public safety organizations. These are the experts in the field that deal with animal behavior, public safety, and coexisting safely with animals in your community every day. You can see it's the National Animal Control Association, American Veterinary Medical Association, American Bar Association, Centers for Disease Control, etc. So I'll just go over these legislative proposals. You all brought up a few already. We would like to see an effective and enforceable dangerous animal section. That change would allow for animal control officers to identify nuisance animals and problematic behavior and hopefully preempt incidents instead of picking up the same dog over and over again and issuing multiple citations. Repeal the breed-specific language and enhance dangerous animal language, and really Kansas City, Kansas should have a no tolerance for dangerous animals within the city. The second thing is revising the definition for proper care of animals. I know that what someone may think is proper may not be what another person thinks, and you can see that throughout the system of what a family thinks is proper may not be what animal control thinks is proper, and what animal control thinks is proper may not be what the municipal court judge thinks is proper. So there are some more accurate, definable terms of care that we can change the ordinance to. And then humane tethering guidelines, we would really like to see some restrictions on the type of tether and collar that these animals are wearing when they're out there. 1, so it's secure, and 2, so it is humane for the animal, and there are best practices for that. We would like to see guidelines for supervision and continuous tethering of animals, and we're not by any means trying to prohibit tethering completely, because I know there are some city staff people even who don't have fences because their HOA won't allow it. There are people who are renting and they can't afford fences, and we certainly don't want to prohibit people in underserved areas or people who have restrictions like that from possessing animals. We just want to make sure that those animals are safe and the public is safe from those animals. And then raising the pet limits, I don't know what you all want to do, maybe 3 dogs, maybe 4. It's something that we definitely can go back and forth on with the law department, but I know that the commission has heard repeatedly from people who can't move to the city because of the pet limit being so low, particularly the dog limit being so low. And then I also know that there are special permits that people can request to have over the pet limit, but right now the commission is hearing about those permits, and that's something that would more adequately be served by the animal control department. They know those properties, they know the repeat offenders, they know the people they get complaints on more regularly, so I think that they're better served in issuing those special permits. And then finally, reducing the community cat population by decriminalizing the trap, neuter, and return of those animals to those colonies, and in turn keeping those cat colonies closed to reduce the population overall. The intended result is more animal control officers on the street, progressive animal control law enforcement policies and training, which would then lead them to quickly and accurately identify animal neglect as well as problematic behavior by dangerous animals. Also reducing the feral dog packs, the number of stray dogs out in the community, which would then lead to a healthier community through outdoor activity and exercise, and then consistent humane education implemented through the schools and dog safety training for the community. Finally, there are some measurable results, things that we'll be able to, if this initiative is implemented, I believe can be measured over the next few years, and then I have some numbers if you guys have any questions. This would increase licensing revenue by raising the pet limit, also by allowing all breeds of dogs, and by forming online licensing and fee payments instead of having those handwritten licenses, something that someone can do from their home. They can license their pet from their house. And then resources are properly allocated to dangerous animals and not seizing and impounding those community cats and taking up all the space in the shelter. And then the reduced number of animals impounded by these revised policies and ordinance changes. On the other side, you have, and you guys can see the rest of them, on the other side, we have the positions that Captain Angel spoke about. We would definitely like to see those 3 additional officers, as well as the 1 supervisor, to be unfrozen and funded. And I think that the community survey bolsters the argument that something needs to be done and we need more officers on the street. And I think that we're all aware that there is going to be increased impoundment of those stray and feral dogs in the community and thus increased euthanasia, but we hope that that happens quickly, and we hope that that number goes back down to where it is right now with less animals on the street. And then formal education and training for animal control officers. Being a NACA certified animal control officer is really excellent. It also helps them in court when they say, how do you know if that's neglect? They can say, because I am NACA certified through the National Animal Control Association Level 3, and I learned this, this, and this, instead of saying, I learned it on the job, this is what my supervisor told me. That would cost, I think, just under $600 per animal control officer, and I think that the community would really like to see that happen first and foremost. There's potential for an adoption counselor position to move more animals through the shelter, and then updated equipment, as Captain Angel mentioned. Some of those things are already figured and approved into the 2014 budget, and then there are also things that could be spread out over the next 2 years.
Commissioner Philbrook.
Okay, so as I understand it, we need more, right?
Yes.
And maybe less, depending on what it is.
exactly.
Okay.
Currently, actually receive more calls in a day than we can go on. And then we have to start prioritizing, okay, that was a dog they saw running the area that was 4 hours old, okay, that's probably gone. I mean, so when the public is demanding the service and saying that we're not providing it, we don't have the people to provide it.
Right, gotcha. I know, I'm one of those public. Anyway, so what is the minimum staffing we should be having for this size of a city? Does anybody know that?
I was going to say this. When the state lady came in and did our inspection, there was a NACA formula, and when I did it, it came up to perfectly the size we are plus the 4 frozen positions, which is probably how they were made to begin with.
Which is exactly what now?
Currently, I have 7. I have a supervisor and 6 officers, and so that increased the officers to 9 with 2 supervisors.
The NACA, National Animal Control Association formula for a city this size is actually exactly 20 officers, 9 in the shelter to deal with the animals, and then 11 in the field.
Holy moly. Okay. Not what I wanted to hear, but hey, just the truth, I guess. What other cities in our area have breed-specific regulations?
I think a lot of your Johnson County cities still have them. I know your surrounding cities like Honor Springs, Lenexa, Kansas City, Missouri, they don't prohibit any kind of breed of dog. And then actually there's about only 2% of cities nationwide still have these laws. They were laws enacted in the 1980s. And over time, we have a much better understanding of dog behavior and public safety. And the trend, of course, now that we have all that information is to target animals based on the way they look instead of the way they behave instead of the way they look. We certainly don't target animal cruelty based on the way the animal looks. We treat all animals as individuals.
Okay, so this question goes to both of you, because I believe I heard you say it would be well and good that we change policy and codes, but without follow-through and other changes, we're kind of wasting our time. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Would the people that have been working together consider continuing to work together to further some measurable results on this? Plus add a few folks?
Yeah, I think, and actually, I think all of those stakeholders that I identified are here today. We have someone from the health department, I believe Chief Hansen is here, and someone from the legal department. I believe everyone is open to continuing to work together to make this happen.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Walker.
Are you, does this, I didn't see them, but is Bonner Rescue in this?
No.
They're not?
These are, no, they're not.
Are you familiar with them?
Yes.
The only reason I am, I had a dear friend that worked for them, and another friend that, one of them has passed, but she was always hitting me up for money for Bonner Rescue or had some fundraising project.
They're
So
here today because they certainly do have an
I
interest
just
in
wondered
these
if
changes.
them being in the county, whether they were involved in this.
They're certainly supportive of it, and they're here tonight.
Okay, good.
Will we see them again before the budget?
Oh, well, okay, so here's what I'm going to recommend, is that we have the oversight committee to review the changes that are proposed by the committee and how they want to allocate funds and a timeline for us. The people to be on that would be, of course, I'm volunteering myself because this is near and dear to me, and I'm asking Hal to help out with that. Again, thank you, Hal.
I'm the one always voting for special use permits, so.
There you go.
So, yeah, I'll work on this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Livable neighborhoods, I believe, need to be involved with this. Keep the health department in, of course, because it is all to do about our healthy communities. The Humane Society, and of course, our legal department, along with Ms. Barnett.
Well, basically, what you're recommending is that we approve that the two of us, as representatives of the commission, serve as the representatives of the commission with this group of people in trying to bring forward a final proposal for the commission to consider, which includes both budget recommendations and ordinance changes.
And in the meantime, maybe we can ask our police people if it would be okay if they went ahead and targeted the trapping of dog packs and seizure report dogs at large. Is that possible?
We have begun that, and we have a trap up 22nd, just south of Quindaro, I believe, to work on that pack. And last they told me, we had taken, just in a week time, we had taken like 4 dogs out of that area. And we've got another neighbor, because they get wise to it. We've got another person in that general vicinity that has agreed to have the trap in their yard, and we're going to be moving it there this week to continue working on that pack.
Let's,
Yeah, we need to
the
go
hour's
ahead.
late on this, and we've got another committee. We've got a motion to do what I recommended. The only qualification is that, and the mayor's representative is, well, I see Bill, he can carry it tomorrow. I mean, if we're going to serve on a committee as representatives of the commission, I want the mayor to agree to that in some way, either verbally or in writing. But
Yes, sir.
that would be the mission to try to bring all these diverse issues together in a package for commission consideration.
Correct.
Because we're not going to, we could talk for hours about this issue, obviously.
I know, and, sorry it took so long, but it's very important.
So I have a motion. Is there a second?
Me, of course.
I got one.
Oh, sorry.
And I apologize. You spoke about a dysfunction, the possibility of the phone dysfunction or whatever be the case. I just want to know if a citizen wants to just get online and say there's a stray dog here, is there a possibility of that where they can go online and mention stray animals, period?
There is. If they go to the animal control link off of the KCKPD website, there is like a contact the commander, and it sends me an email, and believe me, I get tons, so it is being used.
Okay.
Any other questions? Roll call on the question.
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. That concludes this meeting, and we'll take a 10-minute break and get the
Thank you for your time.
and Human Rights.
Thank you.
Human Services. That's what the commission asked.